Amidst all the social justice commentary recently, I have the most powerful statement coming out of sports. I'm going to tell you who it is and what they said. How about college football players from only one team filing a lawsuit today to try and reinstate fall football? I think it's a big story. I'm going to tell you who it is. And one of the NFL's top wide receivers has been missing 3 out of the last 6 days from camp, and nobody's talking about it. I've got the wide receiver, I've got the team, and more importantly, I have the most interesting comment that his coach said about the whole situation. You have successfully found the home of 600 subscribers the first round. We are here to help you be smarter than your friends when it comes to sports. Let's start the show.
You're tuned in to the hottest sports analysis of the week with your hosts Ron Dolbeck and Chris Roberts. And now, here's the first round.
You're in the first round. It's a Thursday night. We're talking about everything going on in the world of sports. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot that's also stopped over the past 24 hours. Chris and I are going to have some very distinct things to say about the social justice issues that are going on in our world with the NBA postponement. I think that before we even get the show started, I wanted to say a couple things about it right now. That I think that obviously yesterday the Milwaukee Bucks come out without really even talking to anybody, which I don't have a problem with, and say that for the recent occurrences up in Wisconsin, that they were going to postpone, opt out, not play, boycott, whatever word you feel comfortable using, yesterday's game 5 against the Milwaukee Bucks and the Orlando Magic. That, to me, the whole game getting played is a secondary issue, and Chris and I aren't going to get into sides of this specific event that happened up in Wisconsin, but I think that it goes a long way to say that if we just have understanding that a lot of the problems that we're having out here in the world today would be a lot smaller. Chris and I have had a lot of conversations over the last year about social justice issues, and we both agree that treating everyone that we come in contact with dignity and respect. You know, we talk sports all the time. We're on here on YouTube twice a week. We're not always going to agree. We don't agree on sports issues, certainly. I mean, you guys write in and you guys disagree with me a lot of times, and I disagree with Chris and other people out on the street when we're talking. The issue isn't for all of us to agree, because that's not going to happen. The real issue is, do we have understanding with people that we don't agree with, that have a different view? And there seems to be an increased level in angst, hatred, violence, anger, whatever word you want to slide in there. And some of it's justified and some of it's not. But Chris and I were talking before the show. There's a reason why we have 2 ears and only 1 mouth. And sometimes silence and listening to the other side is the birth of understanding. And it's also a good benchmark to someone's character. It takes character to be able to listen to somebody that you don't agree with or don't understand. But it's a great way of filling that gap, because the wider that gap gets, the more hatred, the more violence, the more separation we have. And if we really sit down and no one's around and nobody's watching, there aren't any cameras, we all want to live in a world where we all get along. We don't have to agree. The strength is when how you treat people when you don't agree. It's easy to sit around and have beers with everybody when you're all Gator fans. All the Laker fans get together. Then it's a great party. What happens when you're having a Laker party and 5 Celtic fans show up? What happens when you're a Democrat and somebody engages a conversation with you who's a Republican? What happens when you have one religious set of views and you're engaging in a discussion with somebody that sees things in a different frame? How we treat people when it's difficult measures our character, not when it's easy. And Chris, I'm interested to see what your thoughts are in the last couple of days and what's happened as far as some of the players walking out, opting out, postponing, boycotting. And even on the TNT set, The jet walked off and said, I just can't do this tonight. And I want to hear what you have to say about it, Al.
Well, I mean, Ron, as an African American, we view these things differently because we see these things happen in our neighborhood. A lot of times we have different interactions, with law enforcement, and it got to a point with these players. I mean, a lot of these players, they grew up in these communities, and they also shared, they also have shared experiences. And so with that being said, they got to a point where, I mean, they're tired just like the community itself is tired. I mean, I understand that, frustrations boil over and people are rioting, which is I don't agree with. I don't condone, burning down your own neighborhood or your own things, because at the end of the day, you still have to live there.
Right.
So
and violence never brings us closer to an answer.
So no, it really doesn't. But at the same time, a lot of the African American community as a whole, we're asking for empathy and understanding. I mean, as African Americans, we had a situation where, I mean, you came over from slavery. Yes, we had Emancipation Proclamation. Yes, we that freed the slaves and whatnot. But at the same time, you have to understand, African Americans hadn't really gotten their full rights until 50 years ago, after the Voting Rights Act was passed, Civil Rights Act was passed, and as well as the Housing Act. So, a lot of times we're still trying to get to that point with this as a country. We're still trying to get to that point. So I think that from the other side, for people who don't really understand, only thing we're really asking for in those communities is to have empathy, so we can get to that point where we all have an understanding and, make this country great for everybody.
I think that's one of the best points that I've heard in the last couple of days is just saying, hey, look, we just want to be understood. We want empathy. A good word that I would put with that is compassion.
Yeah.
And I used to think compassion was, I'm driving on the freeway and I see an accident and I go, oh man, I really feel sorry for those people. That's not compassion. Compassion is actually an action word. Right. It's taking action to relieve or decrease the stress in another person's life. Yeah. So if I just drive by and I see something happening that's an injustice and I don't do anything about it, I'm not having compassion on that person because I feel sorry for them. I actually need to take action. Now, all of us need to decide in our own minds, lives, and hearts what that means for you. But I think it starts with just the basics of treating everyone you meet with dignity and respect. If we just start there, then I think that's a great point. Some of our listeners chimed in on Twitter. Deborah Turner, DMob1961, appreciate you writing in, said, respect to you, TNT, and all the professional athletes for putting action to their words. As much as I am a sports fan, I'm even now a bigger fan of you men. Appreciate those comments. Also, Jay Cerrone coming off of Twitter. Good for the players. I have no issues with everything coming to a screeching halt, but will that change anything? And Keon1953 emailed us here at the show and said, I'm glad the important things in life didn't react like this. Doctors, farmers, grocery stores, water treatment plants. Do you think any of this will actually change the world? And I don't know how much of an impact any of these things will change, Keon. I appreciate you guys writing in. We always value your opinion. You get a hold of us here at thefirstrd@gmail.com, and we try to answer all your questions and comments about the show. Keon says, he makes a point. We can't shut everything down just because we don't agree with other people socially. But on the other hand, is this going to change anything? And all I can say is I hope it does. It starts with me as an individual. I'm the only person that I'm in control of. And hopefully other people will follow. I'm not perfect at it. Nobody is. But follow the template that Dr. Martin Luther King came out with, or I think about Gandhi, or I think about Jesus, where you say just treat people with dignity and respect, and that goes a long way. And Chris, I think you made a good point also about the empathy, just listening. Sometimes just listening to somebody else, it doesn't mean you're going to reach a point of understanding, but just listening to somebody else, I think, can bridge that gap.
I mean, it really can. It can bridge that gap, and really, if we just treat each other. I mean, as the Bible says, I'm not trying to get all, religious in here, but, you got to love thy neighbor as thyself. I mean, we have to love each other. I mean, as we would love each other. So I mean, this is definitely something that we have to get to this point. I mean, America is a great place to live. I mean, we probably wouldn't want to be in any other place in this world, but at this point, we have to be able to come together. We have to show compassion and empathy for each other, and sometimes just sit here and just listen.
Couldn't have said it better myself. There are a lot of things going on in the world of sports, and we're going to get to all those in just 1 second. First of all of us here on the first round want to give a big round of applause. We're at 600 subscribers. We want to thank you, all of our 600 subscribers out there. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We hope that we put a lot of effort in to giving you a great show every single week. Tell your friends about the first round. Help us grow to epic proportions. And having said that, let's get to all those other things going on in the world of sports. And it's got to start in the one place we've been talking about, the NBA. Players hold a meeting this morning and decide through a vote to return to play one day after 3 playoff games in the NBA last night were postponed. Adam Silver comes out, the commissioner of the NBA, today and says they hope to be back playing by Friday, so they're basically pushing all the schedule back 2 games. I hope that comes to pass. Also in the NBA, Portland Trail Blazers, Damian Lillard, voted on by his fellow players as the most valuable player in the bubble, has left the NBA bubble in Orlando and has decided to head back to Portland to have his right knee examined. Good luck to him. Pacers fire head coach Nate McMillan after 4 years on the job. He posted a record of 183 and 136. That's a plus 50 in 4 years. On top of that, he made the playoffs all 4 years without a lot of help around him. I hope he lands on his feet. I'm not sure about that firing, but Chris and I will get into that. Names being thrown around for the vacated position of head coach in Philadelphia. 76ers head coaching job could go to Tyronn Lue. Head coach of Villanova, Jay Wright, or Stan Van Gundy. Stan Van Gundy is like the ultimate retread. I mean, he's coached about 56 teams in the last 10 years, and I don't remember him winning a ring at any of them. This is kind of starting to smell like the NFL, where we just have retread coaches like Noah Turner constantly getting jobs without winning. Chris and I will talk about that. NFL news. Tampa Bay wide receiver Chris Godwin has mysteriously not been at practice 3 out of the last 6 days. What's even more interesting is what was the response from his head coach, Bruce Arians. When asked about it, he said, quote, "That is for me to know and no one else to find out." Godwin is going to be in his 3rd season. Last year, 86 receptions, 9 touchdowns, 1,300 yards. He's only making $2.1 million this year. This smells like a holdout move to me. Injury-laden 49ers have brought in several free agents to help fill some of those gaps that they've been hit with in the offseason. Tops on the list, wide receiver Johnny Hilton had 21 receptions and played with Pittsburgh last year, and quarterback Kevin White, who was a first-round draft pick his rookie year. We've all heard about coaches getting their players in 2-a-days or in practice to run laps when they mess up. How about new head coach of the G-Men, the New York Giants, Joe Judge? Not only is he making his players run laps, he's making the guys on his staff run laps also. When asked about this, Judge said, quote, "There are consequences for blowing it on the field, whether you're a player or a staff member." I didn't think I'd ever see the day when that happened. Major League Baseball news. Aaron Judge has done it again. Yankees could place their power-hitting right fielder on the IL as soon as Thursday due to a calf injury sustained last night when they're playing Atlanta. Chris and I talked about this at the beginning of the season. The biggest problem with Aaron Judge is he's a strikeout magnet and he's hurt all the time. He'd be the most valuable player in Major League Baseball if he could get those 2 things under control, but the injury bugaboo seems to have hit him again. How about the Boston Red Sox and other Major Baseball League news? They're 10-21, just 2 years removed from winning the World Series. They're 10.5 games back right now and could have several vets on the move before the August 31st trade deadline. Some of the names being bantered around: Jackie Bradley Jr., Kevin Pillar, Mitch Moorhead, and catcher Christian Vasquez. College football news. 8 Nebraska Cornhusker players filed a lawsuit today against the Big Ten to try and reinstate the fall football schedule that has been taken away. The lawsuit states that the Big Ten, quote, hurt players' chances of future football prospects and ability to market and brand themselves. I'm not too sure I disagree with it. Chris and I are going to talk about where we think that lawsuit goes. Other college football news. Georgia Bulldogs wide receiver Dominic Blaylock tore his ACL. The only thing worse than that, he tore his left ACL in the SEC championship game and was just coming off of that injury. He'll be out the 2020 season. I'm wondering if this is going to be the excuse that Georgia comes up with November 7th when they get blown out by my Florida Gators. I hope it's not. And having said all that, Chris, there is a lot going on in the world of sports, even though it seems like we've kind of hit pause with the NBA in the last couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot going on, and we're
going to have a fun show.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but what's interesting enough is, I mean, now you see these pauses and these boycotts now starting to stretch to other sports. We can't have that, but I mean, I understand where they're coming from. So I mean, we have boycotts with Milwaukee, the baseball team. They boycotted their game, as well as you have some boycotts in the NHL as well. So
and the Saints suspended their practice today.
Right.
Actually, put the gentleman's name Jacobs, I believe it was. Was it
right? Yeah, I think so.
From Wisconsin, they put his name on their helmets. Want to start with the NBA, and the playoffs are going to resume. Adam Silver says tomorrow. We've got 3 games scheduled. We will be breaking down all the divisions in the NFC, who we've got as our winners, and possibly getting into our Super Bowl picks if we've got time. But I want to start in the NBA, postponing 3 games yesterday. The playoff picture looks like this. Bucks Game 5 Friday, scheduled for 4. That's at 4 p.m. That's going to be on NBA TV. And the Bucks are up 3-1 that series. I think they get past the Orlando Magic pretty easily on that one. 6:30, Houston will resume against OKC on TNT. That series is 2-2. I'm super interested in that one. And Joe, I'm sure, is going to have comments right now on the Lakers trying to wrap it up against Portland, 9 p.m. tomorrow on TNT. They're up 3-1 in that series. Joe, is it over? Because I'm going to say it is.
I'm going to say it's over as well. I mean, Damian Lillard's out of the bubble now. I don't see them coming back. Chris, thoughts?
I mean, yeah, this series is over. I mean, once the Lakers went up 3-0, AD decided to come in and play. LeBron decided to be LeBron of somewhat old. I mean, yeah, the Lakers got this wrapped up. This is all in the bag.
How about Saturday? Boston at 4 o'clock taking on Toronto. My Boston Celtics in the second round. Both these teams coming off first round sweeps. I think this is the most intriguing and evenly matched teams going head to head in round 2. Or in the playoffs in general. I thought Denver and Utah was going to be a lot closer. It hasn't turned out that way. Utah's up 3-2 in that one. But I want to get your guys' thoughts on Boston and Toronto. I actually don't have a pick on this one yet.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I think this is going to be a battle of the coaches. This is going to be a chess match between Brad Stevens and Nick Nurse. For what Nick Nurse has in Toronto, with Kyle Lowry, Van Fleet, and those guys up there. I mean, he's able to get these guys to be like, the second best team in the East. Joe, what do you think about that?
I'm really interested to see Kyle Lowry's health. He sprained his ankle late in that game against the Nets. So, I mean, let's see where his health will go for the series. Is he going to be ready for Saturday or not?
I don't know if he's going to be ready. What I will say about Toronto is I think they are – For having lost last year, Kawhi Leonard and one of the arguably best 3 players in the NBA, I think that they have filled the gap amazingly. I thought they were going to fall off. They absolutely did not fall off, finishing second in the Eastern Conference. I think they're a team to contend with, and if they do get past Boston, I think Milwaukee's going to have their hands full with either of these 2 teams. I don't have a prediction on it right now. Joe, what's your prediction? You got a prediction on this?
My prediction on the series?
Yeah, on the series.
I'm going to go Toronto in 6.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. Utah tomorrow Saturday gets it going at 6:30. They're up 3-2 on Denver. I look for them to close it out. And then Dallas. You want to talk about injuries. Luka Doncic, not 100%. Kristaps Porzingis, absolutely not 100%, missing whole games, is down 3-2 to my Clipper team up on the big bet board right there. Joe and I have a bet. Who's going to go farther? I've got the Clippers. He's got the Lakers. He's going to have to give me $20. Clips up 3-2 right now. I think the Clips close it out in the next 2 games. What do you say?
Yeah, I think the Clips close it out. I think what you saw with Luka Doncic the other night was that he was fatigued. I mean, he put on a great show. I mean, the game before that, we hit that buzzer beater. But without Porzingis there to help shoulder that burden, I think the
A
Clips
little
go ahead
bit
and
of the
close it out.
Trailblazer syndrome.
Yeah.
They're just running out of gas.
Just run out of gas. He's ran out of gas. I
Yeah.
mean, so yeah, I go with the Clippers.
Joe, who you got in that one?
Like I said from the beginning, Clippers in 6.
Clippers in 6. I'm going to go along with that. Before we get into the NBA draft news, which I do want to have Joe touch on, the most powerful comment that I've heard concerning all the social justice issues came from Doc Rivers. And I thought it was a really poignant, bold thing to say. He said, talking about African Americans, we keep loving this country, and this country doesn't love us back. And I thought that really, from somebody that I respect, not just as a Celtic fan, but I liked him as a player when he was with Atlanta, and I think he's done awesome things. He's one of the top 3 best coaches in the NBA right now. But he knows when to speak up, and the way he speaks up is amazing. I think the comment that he made there says volumes about the whole issue with social justice and the NBA being tied together. A real character guy, and I think a real character comment. NBA draft coming up. The lottery was this week. Minnesota gets the first pick. Golden State, Charlotte at 3, Chicago at 4, and then nobody's team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, have the 5th overall pick. Joe,
Yes.
spill your thoughts on the NBA draft, because right now it's hard for me to get interested
NBA
in it.
draft. I have LaMelo Ball going 1, James Wiseman going 2, Anthony Edwards going 3, Obi Toppin 4, and a foreigner. I can't even think of his name actually.
From
I
Israel?
don't even know who he is. It's somebody from Israel.
The guy from Israel.
That's how irrelevant the Cavs are. But LaMelo Ball at 1.
Chris,
I see it. I see it.
I can't go with the LaMelo Ball thing, and I'm going to tell you why. It has nothing to do with his brother. It has to do with they go to a third world country to play, and they don't make it with, I think it was in Lithuania. And it was a lackluster 6 or 8 months there. There was more hype over the contract that him and his brother signed than there was over the numbers he actually put up. The second thing is foreign players coming over here don't have a great track history per capita of panning out. Now, we could talk about the Rick Rubios, the Dirk Nowitzkis, and the Luka Doncic's, but those are the outliners. Most of these guys come over, and within 2 years, they're out of the league. The third thing is the dad factor. That, to me, it makes me really, really leery. And a couple years ago, when Lonzo was being touted as the first overall pick, which the Celtics had, I was leery of that because of the dad factor, causing too much noise. And you know me, where there's drama, you don't find championship rings.
Well, with LaMelo Ball, he's different from the other two. he is.
I keep hearing that.
He is different from the other two. He actually went against his dad's wishes and actually went over to Australia to play ball, where he actually played with former NBA players, and they actually said this guy is the real deal.
Right, but former NBA players mean that they're not good enough to be in the NBA now, so it's not NBA quality. That's my only concern. I'm not saying the kid sucks.
Yeah, but
I just have red flags going up.
But the Australia League is one of the tougher Euro leagues to actually play in. European, like as far as basketball, they are one of the tougher leagues to play in. But when it comes down to that, I mean, LaMelo, maybe. But
overall?
I wouldn't pick him 1 overall. I mean, he's a lottery pick, but I wouldn't pick him at number 1.
You know who I love is the kid out of Dayton, Toppin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that kid. I think he's going to be a 16 and points, 12 to 15 rebounds, big body. He can pass. He's smart. I think he's going to be a huge asset to whoever picks him up. And again, just because you're the team at number 1 doesn't mean you have the same needs as the team at number 2, 3, or 4.
Right.
So somebody could be looking for a point guard at 1, and somebody at 4 might need somebody at the power forward position. I'm thinking of Golden State. They don't need a ball handler right now. They need somebody down low. Andrew Bogut isn't going to be cutting it if he's even going to be on the team anymore. So they might be looking for somebody big, whereas maybe the Cavaliers want to, get a 2, 3, or 4 guy in there. I don't know. If it's me right now, I'm not saying he's the best player, but he caught my eye. I love that kid Toppin from Dayton. I think he's one of the best overall. And then Weissman also out of Memphis. I mean, that kid, he's just got upside written all over him. If he could get the space in between his ears figured out and leveled out and the maturity rises, the talent's already up there. I think he's got a world of upside.
I feel like the Warriors have been hunting him down for since the beginning of last season, actually. They don't have a center outside of Kevon Looney. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bogut hasn't been there in 2-3 years now. So, I mean, I know
Right.
what you're saying. Defensive-wise, I mean, I think Wiseman is the best big man coming out of the draft.
Yeah,
Pure talent. I mean, he only played, 5-10 games with Memphis, then he had the
Yep.
substance, or what was it, protocol abuse, something like that. So,
It's
but he is the most talented center out of that draft. Or big man, excuse me.
going from super talented players to an NBA team that doesn't have many at all, or if they do, they can't get their stuff right. Let's talk about the Philadelphia 76ers and general manager Elton Brand and all the problems. He's been the GM there for 4 years. I did a little bit of research on his record. How good of a job do you think he's done, Chris? You're a good NBA guy.
Looking at what he's done, the players he's brought in, other than bringing in Jimmy Butler, I say he hadn't done too great of a job.
But then
at
he
all.
couldn't hold Jimmy Butler. Am I
Right.
wrong or what?
He couldn't hold Jimmy Butler to save his life.
But what kind of job has Elton Brand done as the GM there?
C+.
C plus. I'm not even going to go that high. He hasn't restored faith, and I don't know if anyone's trusting the process at this point. 2018 signed a player that you might have heard of, Landry Shamet. Traded him in 2019. He's now a really good player on what I think is the best team in the NBA, being the Clippers. Signed J.J. Redick, then let him go. Signed Emeka Okafor. Remember that big name?
Yeah.
Emeka Okafor.
Yeah.
Then they signed him in September of 2018, waived him in October of 2018. Acquired Jimmy Butler in 2018, let him go. Drafted Markelle Fultz, number 1 overall in 2017. Traded him less than 2 years later in 2019. Brought in Al Horford on a 4-year, $109 million deal from the Celtics. All he's done is average 12 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and play 15 minutes a game and cost you $25 million a year. That's not a C-plus move in my book for Elton Brand. Now he's came out this week and said he's not moving Embiid or Ben Simmons, who clearly can't play together. Am I out of my mind that one of those two players has to go? Or is it time that we start questioning Elton Brand at this point, Joe?
Now that you said all that stuff, it is time to start questioning him. But I mean, it is hard to compare Ben Simmons and Embiid for what they haven't done anything. They've done nothing.
This was his cake. He baked it. He made the bed. Now he doesn't want to sleep in it. He says he's not going to get rid of these guys. How are you not getting rid of a formula that's not working?
You got to trade Ben Simmons or Embiid.
It's not going to happen.
They would keep Embiid before they.
He said this week he came out and they're not trading him. Chris, am I out of my mind, or we need to start looking a lot closer at Elton Brand as the GM?
Well, I mean, you have to start looking closer at Elton Brand as the GM. I mean, you have to look at the way they play basketball. Ben Simmons, he's basically a point forward who can't shoot an outside jump shot to save his life. I mean, he can't shoot a 15-foot jump shot. At least, the guy had one of the worst three-point percentages in the league. And so you look at the fact that you have Joel Embiid, who's a big man, who can take you off the dribble, who can go inside out, but you need to have somebody that's going to be the focal point of the offense. And I think Joel Embiid is the focal point of the offense. And I think you should go ahead and look to move Ben Simmons and get you some pieces.
Who's picking up that Ben Simmons contract at $19 million a year?
Who's picking up that Embiid contract?
I mean, hey,
I don't move Embiid.
Hey, you have to think though. I mean, you had somebody like Detroit who picked up what's the name? Blake Griffin's big contract from the Clippers as well. So I mean, teams are out there that'll pick up those type of contracts.
Yeah, and that's not even the biggest problem, I don't think, with the 76ers. Now they have to fill a head coaching position. I talked about some of the names out there. Tyronn Lue. I really don't know what I'm getting with Tyronn Lue. He was in the league for a while as a player. He's had a cup of coffee in the coaching position in a couple different places, but he had big players around him when he had success as a coach. So I don't know what I'm getting on the coaching side. Then we can look at Jay Wright. I think if Jay Wright is going to leave Villanova, where he has a lot of control, he can recruit his own players. He's super loved by the alumni and the whole area around Philadelphia. I'm thinking you got to put a 5 or a 6 in front of that $1 million contract to pull Jay Wright out of there and say, come fix my problem. The other name that's being mentioned for some reason, I talked about at the top of the show, is Stan Van Gundy. I mean, what team hasn't he coached? He hasn't coached the Lakers, and he hasn't coached the Celtics. He has been a janitor with a couple teams, a parking attendant with other teams, were concession stand for the Charlotte Hornets. He's been, in some way, shape, or form, hired by every other team in the NBA, and he's won a grand total of nothing. Why is anyone talking about Stan Van Gundy for a coaching position with a team that is in crisis right now? Elton Brand can't realistically be looking at Stan Van Gundy, can he?
I mean, yeah, he's looking at probably trying to find a Van Gundy from 2009 when they got to the championship where they played the Lakers. I personally wouldn't bring in Stan Van Gundy.
Who are you bringing in, Chris?
If I had a choice,
I just fired Elton Brand. You're my new GM.
I'm looking at Mark Jackson.
I'm looking at Mark Jackson.
We've seen what Mark Jackson did with Golden State prior to Steve Kerr getting there. This guy, he can coach. He's a man of character. He's going to be able to rein everybody in and bring in a lot of those characteristics that's there. If you're not there, you got to get up out of here. So Mark Jackson's my guy.
Joe, I just fired Elton Brand. I made you the GM. Who are you bringing in?
Mark Jackson.
I'm
just glad we brought that point up.
Yeah.
Look what he did with the Warriors before Steve Kerr was there. Made the Warriors. I'm sorry. No, what did I say?
Yeah, no, I don't know. Mark Jackson's your pick.
Mark Jackson's my pick. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go along with that.
Wrong. I was like, what?
No. Moving on to college football news. Oh. No.
I was just saying that Mark Jackson made the Warriors for Steve Kerr.
Before Steve Kerr got there. Yeah.
In some ways, but I think Steph Curry made the Warriors.
But don't forget about Bob Myers as well, who drafted that team. Bob Myers has been their GM since Steph Curry, Clay, and Draymond got there.
But I think at this point, with all the pressure on Elton Brand, he's got to make a splash with somebody that's known around there and has respect of other players. I think Mark Jackson does that. Tyronn Lue might do that. Stan Van Gundy, I said, he's the ultimate retread. Come on. Moving on to college football news, 8 Nebraska Cornhusker football players filed a lawsuit today trying to get the Big Ten to reinstate college football. Where do I think this is going? Nowhere. I don't think this is going to go anywhere. What I would do if I was Scott Frost, instead of standing by or encouraging your players to file a lawsuit that's not going to go anywhere, is to get them to perform on the football field and stop wearing the black shirts until your defense shows up. How about last season? You're 5-7, 3-6 in conference. Not acceptable. The Golden Boy coming back to Lincoln was supposed to rebuild glory, and it hasn't happened. The year before that, 2018, 3-6 in conference, 4-8 overall, no bowl game there. How about if we go back 3 years to 2017, they're 4-8. I think we see a trend. We got to start paying more attention to what's going on the field than filing a lawsuit with 8 players. How come it was only 8? What about the other 50 guys out there? The other 50 players didn't want to sign a lawsuit, or you only wanted 8? And where's this lawsuit really going anyway? It's not going to get anybody playing football for the Big Ten. They have had parents. They have had players call in to the offices, the conference offices. They're threatening lawsuits. They're cutting cheese out of the moon and throwing cheese balls at the conference president. They're putting memes out. They're bringing Donald Trump in. That tells you right there. That's the last bastion of hope. There's not going to be a Big Ten season. Let it go. Start focusing on next year and moving on from that. We talked about doing the breakdowns by divisions in the NFC. A couple weeks ago, we did the AFC breakdowns. But before we get into the NFL, I wanted to talk about our subscribers. It was so awesome today to hit 600 subscribers. We want to thank each and every one of you out there so much. You can be a part of the show. You can't come in the set with us right now, but you can email us here at thefirstraundrd@gmail.com, or even better, follow us on Twitter. We took some comments off of Twitter today. The First Round 1. It's a good follow. Tell your friends about the First Round. Help grow us to even greater epic proportions. We want to thank everybody, all of our 600 subscribers. Thank you so much. Each of you are valuable. We try and do a great show for you every single week. And having said that, we're moving on to NFL news. We're going to start in the NFC East, Chris. Dallas, Philly, the G-Men, and then some team that doesn't have a name anymore, formerly known as. I'm going to go with my picks first. I'm going to start in the NFC East. And I know I'm going to get emails on this one, because I'm picking a team to win the NFC East that I don't even like, that I think aren't going to win a Super Bowl until their owner is inside a box getting carried by 6 of his friends. And that is the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, Jerry Jones is the owner, the CEO, the president, the manager of concessions. He's the parking superintendent. He's the post-game analyst, the post-game press conference envoy to the NFL. It's just like he's the GM. He does everything. Until he hires people, lets them do their job, they're not going to win a Super Bowl. But having said that, I think that they have a top 15 quarterback in Dak.
Yeah.
I think they have one of the top 3 or 4 running backs. I think they have one of the top 3 or 4 offensive lines. And I think their defense is just good enough in a really weak division. And that's the only reason I'm picking them to win the NFC East. So I've got Dallas coming out of the NFC East, actually winning their division for the first time since I was a fetus. Number 2, and I'm talking, this is like razor close. Like a frog hair is separating these two. I've got the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously. The big question with them, can Carson Wentz stay healthy? What I really love about Philly is their wide receiving core. How about Alshon Jeffries, Deshaun Jackson, and my possible rookie of the year? No one has heard of this guy. Jalen Reagor out of TCU runs a 4.3 40. He's got great hands. He can jump. I think this kid has all kinds of talent. I think you're going to hear about him. He's going to play wide receiver. And then they've got Zach Ertz still there. I think their defense is good enough. I think they're going to be right there with Dallas all the way. Third in that division, I've got the G-men. Daniel Jones in his second year, full year at quarterback. He's marginal. He's not going to excite you. He's what we call a game manager at quarterback. And God forbid he goes down, because $10 if either of you guys could tell me who's the backup. Who's the backup quarterback?
I can't.
Nobody. How about Colt McCoy?
Oh, yeah. It's
Colt McCoy is currently listed on the G-Men depth chart as their backup. You want that? How you want to be a G-Man fan and have your quarterback go down, and you got to face the week trying to figure out how you're going to win with Colt McCoy back there? I don't think so. Here's what they got to clean up. 117 penalties, third worst in the NFL last year. Their defense was 30th out of 32. And their wide receiving core that this young quarterback has to throw to, Sterling Shepard, not writing home to mom about him. Golden Tate, best years in the rearview mirror. I think the best thing they've got going for them is Saquon Barkley. The offensive line is suspect at best. The defensive line has been on the back of a milk carton and playing Olay defense for like the past 3 or 4 years. They brought in Janoris Jenkins. That was a joke. I think that they have all kinds of problems, but I've got them third. Only by default I've got them third, because fourth has to be the former Washington Redskins, I hope to be Washington Union, and currently Washington football team from the area of D.C. And that's who I've got fourth. And I'll tell you why. They're a mess. They're a mess in the front office. They're a mess at quarterback. When you look at teams, if they're going to be successful, the first thing I look at if we're going to have a discussion about a team going to the Super Bowl is who's your quarterback. You have Alex Smith, who got his leg bent backwards like a Pez dispenser. Then you've got Dwayne Haskins. 7 touchdowns last year, 7 interceptions. Then you might ask yourself, who's he throwing to? Let's talk about his wide receiving core. Well, you lost Jordan Reed at tight end. And the other guys that they have, they're really exciting. He's going to be throwing to, of course, there's always...
Terry McLaurin.
Well, let me think for a second. And then they've got, yeah. So that's their wide receiving core right there. Basically, I'm putting the Washington football team in the same category as a free spot on the bingo board every single week for whoever they're playing, because I don't know if they're going to win a game. Adrian Peterson comes back, but he's only 75 years old. He went for 4.3 yards a carry. He's actually 30. I think he's 35. Okay, he's 35 years old. And then this says everything about the Washington football team that you need to know. 2 years ago, with their number 1 draft pick that they had, they take Montez Sweat. They wanted to bolster their defense, put a big guy who had speed and could rush the quarterback, put pressure on him. He's not even there on the depth chart. He's not even listed as a starter. He's fighting to stay out of third right now on the depth chart. And this is a guy that they drafted less than 2 years ago to shore up that defensive line. He's second string. So I've got Dallas and Philly neck and neck, super close in the East. And then it's the G-Men just because they have Saquon Barkley. And then the Carnival of Insanity that is whatever you want to call it, the Washington team. Chris, tell me I'm wrong.
No, I got them all in that same order too. I think Dak Prescott is definitely he's gonna be the guy for that division. Dak Prescott's numbers actually got better as each year has progressed. I mean, he started out at like 3,800 yards, and now he's progressing to be over 4,000 yards and over 20 touchdown passes a season.
One playoff win in 4 years, Chris.
Yeah, one playoff win in 4 seasons. But I mean, look,
He wants to sell Campbell's soup.
It's Dallas, man. It is
Dallas.
It's Dallas.
So
man.
you got Dallas winning.
the NFC.
But how close is it between them and Philly?
Again, it depends on, like you said before, it depends on how good Carson Wentz is. If Carson Wentz
stays healthy, I think it's razor thin.
Razor thin, right?
Yeah, I do. Joe, what do you got in the East?
Cowboys 10-6.
And then Philly and what?
Then Philly, then the Giants. No, actually, no. I'm gonna go with the Redskins. Then I'm gonna go with the Giants.
What?
Yep, Alex Smith's gonna stay healthy. And
I don't care if Alex Smith gets touched by God. No way.
I think
He's going to be out there with a walker. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's true. Chase Young though.
Chase Young isn't defending on the that quarterback that you just mentioned, Alex Smith. He's on the defensive side of the ball. How is he going to stay healthy?
Defensive Rookie of the Year for Chase Young.
Yeah, he might be Defensive Rookie of the Year, but that's not going to get him out of the cellar. Let's move on to the NFC North. I've got Minnesota, Green Bay, the Bears, and the Matt Patricia Carnival bringing up the rear at 4 for the Detroit Lions, Paper Lions. Here's what I love about Minnesota. I actually really like Kirk Cousins. I think he's right at that 8 to 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL range. The whole thing, though, with their offense is, can Delvin Cook stay healthy? This kid is fast. He's dynamic. I think he's a game changer. He could take it to the house on any play, but he can't take it to the house if he's not on the field. He has to stay healthy. Good wide receiving core, rookie Justin Jefferson coming out of LSU. Adam Thielen, he's really solid. So is their tight end Kyle Rudolph. Just signed a monster deal last year, so he's tied up. I actually like their offense. Defensively, I think they're solid. Green Bay I've got coming in second. I think this is another close race, though. Obviously, I love them at the quarterback position, but who do they have at wide receiver right now in Green Bay? Like, who is Aaron Rodgers going to be throwing to? I don't know. Joe's got an answer.
Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
That's it?
I mean, you wanted a receiver. I named one.
Okay, there's one.
Maybe second year Alan Lazard. He played pretty well last year down the stretch.
Yeah, he's on the first.
Okay, so that's really it. Jimmy Graham's gone. So who's their tight end? Jared Cook's gone.
I mean, if you're asking me this,
right.
you're making my point for me.
Right,
You know,
I'm just Devontae Adams though, but
I'm questioning their offense, and the whole thing about last year was they had a top 10 defense last year.
they did.
Can the offense score points? This seems to be the problem when it comes to this whole division. Can they score points? I got the Bears number 3. They were 4th overall in defense. So you got 2 teams just in this division that were top 10 in defense. The problem with the Bears is Mitchell Trubisky. He is the problem.
He's not even starting. It's Nick Foles.
No, he's listed as number 1 on the depth chart right now. And I know they brought in Foles as a stopgap measure. If Mitchell Trubisky doesn't work out, like in the first 5 minutes of the first game, he's gone. He has to be. I think this kid is an absolute liability. It was a reach when they took him. As far as I'm concerned, the Mitchell Trubisky experiment is over. I don't. If I'm a fan of the Bears, I don't want him out there. 17 touchdowns last year, 10 interceptions, can't move the ball, not showing leadership skills. He was supposed to be a dual threat kind of guy, or at least be elusive. I don't see that happening either. He had a QBR rating of 39. How am I making it to the Super Bowl with a quarterback that has a QBR rating of 39? It's not going to happen. They went 8-8 last year. They did bring in Nick Foles. The problem with them is their point differential was almost -20. They can't score. They scored 280 points in 16 games. If you want to do the math on that, the only teams that scored less than that were the hapless Bengals, who are barely an NFL team, and the former Washington Redskins. The only 2 teams that scored less than the Chicago Bears. How they even got to 8 wins, I don't even know if God could explain that to me at this point.
Their defense.
That's it. I mean, their defense was ranked 4th in the NFL overall. And then we come to the Matt Patricia Carnival of Mediocrity, which is the Detroit Lions. I think they bring up the rear. I think this experiment is also over. Some guys got to know when they're coordinators, and they're not head coaches. Matt Patricia is one of them. This wasn't his fault, but he's got to make a move on this. Matthew Stafford has got to go. I don't want to hear about all the Tecmo Bowl numbers that he's putting up because 90% of those are in the fourth quarter when they're losing 105-6. I don't want to hear about all the numbers Matthew Stafford puts up against a prevent defense in the fourth quarter when he's down by 35 points. What I do know is he signed a contract for $135 million and has won a grand total, Chris, help me on this one, of how many playoff games? Zero. $135 million. And he has not won a single playoff game ever. If that wasn't enough to tell you why they're finishing last in the division, how about the fact they finished last year 26th in the NFL in overall defense? And Joe, when it comes to the NFC North, I defer to you.
The NFC North, I'm going to go with the bad man, Aaron Rodgers. Packers are winning that division.
Okay, why? Convince me. Tell me and Chris who you've got 1 through 4 and why.
1, I have the Packers. 2, I have the Vikings. 3, I have the Bears, and then your Lions at 4, Matt Patricia.
Okay, so my concern, and I bet you Chris is going to go along with me, is
why do I have the Packers at 1?
Well, how are they going to score? It's Aaron Rodgers is a year older. He's a little more pissed off because they drafted Jordan Love. He doesn't have a name brand wide receiver or a game burner on the outside.
It's Devontae Adams. He's their number 1.
Devontae Adams wasn't even a Pro Bowler last year.
Well, Pro Bowls don't mean anything in my book.
Okay, so how are we going to quantify who's your running back? I mean, where am I going?
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones is a middle-of-the-road guy.
He led the NFL in touchdowns last year for rushing touchdowns.
He's a C-plus running back. He's taking me to the promised land. This is the same crew they had last year that couldn't get past San Francisco.
I agree. But
so what's different?
I trust Aaron Rodgers down the stretch over Kirk Cousins. Do you not? I do.
Kirk Cousins wins 80% of his games if they play at 1 o'clock.
Wow.
That's a stat nobody knows. If they play at 1 o'clock, he wins 80% of his games.
Chris?
Yeah, man. I'm going with the Vikings and winning that division simply because they have the weapons on the outside. And, hopefully Dalvin Cook gets that contract situation
well, he
under
said he's
control.
going to play
so,
whether it's resolved or not. He's coming in. I think the
good.
thing with him is his health, right?
Dalvin Cook he's had those health issues ever since he's been at Florida State, whether it's an ankle or a knee or a back or whatever. But, if he's able to stay healthy, he is that game breaker that they need as far as with the running game. But I'm going with the Vikings number 1, Green Bay 2, Chicago 3.
Somehow 3, because of default.
Yeah, it's because of default, and basically because of their defense, and of course Detroit 4. But like you, I think they have to get rid of Stafford. Stafford has to go somewhere.
Stafford's got to go, but I think it's just a matter. Literally, I think the first game Nick Foles is going to get in.
Yeah, I think.
The first time Trubisky throws a pick, fumbles it, trying to scramble, does something moronic, gets down in the red zone and throws an interception. Nagy has to pull him. And honestly, just like Joe said, I'm going to agree with him. He should be number 1 on the depth chart right now. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. Mitch Trubisky won a bowl of cereal.
You have to think with Trubisky last year. He had one of the lowest completion averages. The guy was averaging like 3 yards a pass last year. So why is he still number 1 on the depth chart? I'm lost.
Arm strength, suspect. Leadership skills, 0. 17 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, can't move the ball. Confidence level, 0. Nick Foles, proven winner, great attitude, arm strength, won a Super Bowl. Why are we having this discussion?
Another one can't stay healthy, though. Nick Foles can't stay healthy. Collarbone.
They're both going to be 100% going into training camp right now. So game 1. Right, but game 1, if they're both healthy, how can you have Trubisky at number 1?
I agree.
Doesn't make any sense. NFC West, let's head out there, and I think this is going to be a no-brainer. I've got San Francisco winning the West. They do lose Emmanuel Sanders at wide receiver. I thought he was a game breaker. He had speed. He had good hands. He was reliable. He goes to New Orleans. I think he's going to be a huge asset for Drew Brees. Staying in the West, though, with San Francisco, even though they had that loss, the whole key to this team is the play of Jimmy G. If he tightens up and gets it tight like a violin string, then they're going to be right there with Baltimore in the Super Bowl chase. Last year, 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, a 58 QBR rating, and I don't think he had the confidence of everybody on his team. I think they had a lights-out, lockdown defense that did more than he did and carried him to the Super Bowl. But when you've got the lead in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl by double digits and you don't walk out of there with the win, you got to look at the coach and you got to look at the quarterback. And I'm looking at both of them right now. And we know what Kyle Shanahan does in playoff games. He blows it, whether it's with Atlanta or San Francisco. I've got Seattle number 2. I think the reason I've got them at number 2 mainly is I'm a little concerned about their offense. They've got the best quarterback, I think, in football, Russell Wilson. I'm going to say Russell Wilson's the number 1 quarterback, not Mahomes. And if you saw the players vote that came out, the top 100 players, Mahomes wasn't even in the top 4.
He was. He was 4th.
Was he 4?
He was 4.
Okay,
yeah.
But they had Aaron Donald and they had Jackson.
At 2, and then Russell Wilson.
Lamar
at 1.
Jackson was number 1.
Yeah.
Having said that, they do have Tyler Lockett at wide receiver. He's 27. He's still young. They got DK Metcalf, who has an incredible body, but you got to show me that you can catch the ball. I need him up around 60 to 70 receptions and the 10 to 12 touchdown range before I get full confidence. And then what's going on at quarterback? You got Rashad Penny back there, and you've got Carson. I know Penny had fumbleitis issues at the beginning of the season, but Pete Carroll's just got to pull the trigger and put somebody in there as your number 1 guy. I think either of those guys, lean on him. Put him in there. Your offensive line is okay. It's not great. I've got Seattle number 2. Oh, they also brought in Philip Dorsett at the wide receiver. He'll add an experience factor, but he's not a game breaker anymore. Number 3, I've got the Cardinals. Kyler Murray. Now he's got D-Hop there in the trade from Houston that puts Bill O'Brien on the hot seat. I like them. I think their defense is coming along. They've been moving in the right direction. The problem is their defense last year was terrible, and Cliff Kingsbury, the head coach there in his first year, did a good job on the offense. But defensively, they were 28th in the NFL in defense, and Cliff Kingsbury isn't a defensive guy. So if you don't shore up that 28th out of 32 defense, Kyler Murray can throw it all over the yard, and you're just going to be playing beat the other guy with points. He's too young, too inexperienced in the league, and Larry Fitzgerald, he's got that AARP card falling out of his wallet. I mean, he's at the shuffleboard court with the Rockport shoes and the wraparound glasses. He's up there. He's not the effective guy that he always has been in the past. Number 4, I've got the Rams. Jared Goff, I'm not hanging any of last year or the fact that they're going to finish last in their division on him at all. I'm going to tell you why. 22 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, 626 attempts last year, more than any other quarterback. He had no offensive line last year. None. And I don't even want to get into what was going on with Todd Gurley. Arthritis, leg problems, head problems, disciplinary problems, doesn't like the young coach problems. Whatever it was, he's gone. They got to figure out that offensive line because Jared Goff can't be putting up 50 passes a game and hoping to stay in games. It's not going to happen. They lose Todd Gurley, but they get Cam Akers. I have a lot of faith in Cam Akers. Again, small fumbleitis issues with him at FSU, nothing major, but I think he's strong. I think he's a powerhouse runner. I think he can replace Todd Gurley. And then you've got Aaron Donald on the defensive side, and they brought in Jalen Ramsey, so the secondary gets shored up. But it's not enough until they fix that offensive line. I've got the Rams coming in 4th. Chris, how do you see the West breaking down in the NFC?
I have San Francisco at number 1 because, I said they're going back to the Super Bowl. I have Seattle at number 2. I'm going to go with the Rams at number 3. I like what the Rams did offensively when it comes down to adding Cam Akers to replace Todd Gurley. And then I also like the fact that they brought in the Gator wide receiver. I think it's Van Jefferson, from Florida. I like what they did with that. He's going to be that that threat, that end zone threat, that red zone and deep threat that they need for the Rams offense. And then I'm going to go with the Cardinals in the 4th.
So they lose Brandon Cooks, and they get Cooper Kupp coming back from a pretty bad injury, but he should be 100%.
Right.
I'm going to give them a C+ on offense right now because, again, I don't have a problem with the quarterback. I'm going to give Jared Goff a solid B. Where I do have a problem is that offensive line looks like Swiss cheese.
Yeah, it looks like Swiss cheese.
I mean, every time he goes back to pass, it's like a jailbreak.
Yeah, it looks like Swiss cheese, but the thing is with them not being able to have a running back who was able to do some of the things that Todd Gurley did that could take some of the pressure off of him. Like Todd Gurley could, you could throw a screen to Todd Gurley, and Todd Gurley can get out here and get you like 13
Yeah, but Chris, Todd
yards.
Gurley's been MIA in every single way, shape, and form the last year and a half.
But again, Cam Akers gives you that same thing that Todd Gurley
Right.
can do because he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can block. I mean, once he learns the offensive
Where
scheme.
did Cam Akers go to school?
He went to Florida.
That's
went to Florida.
exactly why you're talking
No,
about it, 'cause he went to Florida.
it's not that. But
No, I think
but
just joking.
But I'm just saying, yeah. But he did that. I mean, his freshman year. I mean, this guy averaged 1,000 yards. He had 1,000 yards his freshman year.
Oh, in
under
the
Jimbo.
ACC, which
And
is known for defense.
Sure.
Joe, give me your West breakdown and why.
I got the Niners at 1.
Okay.
I got the Seahawks at 2.
Okay.
I got the Rams at 3, and I have the Cardinals at 4.
Am I crazy to say that Russell Wilson's the best quarterback in the NFL? Either of you guys?
No, I don't think so. But
I think he's in the top 5.
Whoa,
top
3.
Top
for sure.
5, top 3. I mean,
I would
yeah,
say 3 for
but
sure.
Well, we can
But
clear
when
this
we-
up real quick. Is Brady in the top 5?
Yes.
Get off the set.
Tom Brady's
Get
not.
off the
Okay,
set.
You
okay,
talking about
wait,
currently?
whoa, whoa, whoa.
No,
Currently-
currently right
currently,
now.
We're
currently
going
right now.
after-
Tom
we
Brady
got
can't
the-
be in the
Cur-
top 5
currently-
right now. No way.
No, not
No
right
way.
Now. Not right
okay.
now.
All right,
Not
we're
right
getting
now.
there in a second. Continue with what I got for the division, right? I have the Niners at 1.
Okay.
I have the Seahawks and Niners coming in close really towards the end, just like last year when they came down to that goal line stand against the Niners-Seahawks game in Seattle. So I think it'll be really close.
But you've got the Rams being better than the Cardinals?
Yeah, I'd rather. I trust Jared Goff. I trust McVay over Kingsbury, and I trust Goff over Kyle Murray. Excuse me. And their offensive line is shaky as well. The Cardinals' offensive line. So it's a battle of the offensive lines.
All right, let's wrap it up real quick in the
All
NFC South. I'm going to go in reverse order, though. NFC South, in 4th place, I've got the Atlanta Falcons. It's hard for you to admit that that's your team. They played the Patriots a couple years ago in the playoffs. I can't remember.
Super Bowl, actually.
Super Bowl or something.
You remember Super Bowl?
Can't remember what happened in that game. There was a big lead. I was really upset.
This guy.
I think it came out all right in the end. Number 3 in that division, I've got Carolina. I know they bring in Teddy Bridgewater and they've got Christian McCaffrey, but that's about it. That offensive line, I'm not believing in that. I don't like their secondary. I think Matt Rule is a first-year coach in the NFL. He might be over his head. I've got them 3. Now to the drum roll. Number 2, and I've got number 2 in the NFC South. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Of course.
I'm going to tell you why. Their offensive line is beyond suspect. They gave up twice as many sacks as the New England Patriots. And I've told you, Tom Brady is one missed assignment away from being in the old folks' home. Trust me. Somebody's going to have to take his teeth out and clean them. Giselle's going to have to get the Pyrident, make sure those things are in there tight. Here's the thing. I don't remember which of you guys was telling me about how lights out their defense was last year. They were 29th out of 32 teams. And I know, Chris, you and I have talked about it and said, well, a lot of that was Jameis Winston, the turnover magnet, and he gave the other team the ball a lot. 29th is way too high for me. I can't see you winning the division when you've got the New Orleans Saints, who are, I think, have one of the top 3 coaches. Drew Brees is one of the top 10 quarterbacks still in the league. I think there's too many questions for Tampa Bay. I think Gronk is a facilitator at this point and a blocker. He brings some experience in, but he hasn't played for 2 years. He's out of shape, and the last 2 years he was with New England, he wasn't lighting it up. So I've got New Orleans at number 1. 13th best defense in the NFL last year. I love that. The number that's even better than that is their offense was 4th overall. You know what you're getting. You got speed burners. Alvin Kamara, he's a game changer. You got Michael Thomas, one of the best wide receivers in the game. You got Emmanuel Sanders being brought over from the 49ers. He's a speed burner on the outside. You got Taysom Hill. He's a dual threat guy. He can line up in the Wildcat. If Breeze goes down, I don't think it's Jameis Winston. Even if it is, it doesn't matter. Taysom Hill, you can put him anywhere. He'll line up in the backfield. He'll line up at tight end. He'll line up at wide receiver. Too much ammunition in the gun for New Orleans. Plus, I love their coach. I am in love with their coach. I think they have the total package right now as Joe shakes his head and just tell me how much money you want to lose. because you're on the bandwagon with everybody else that Tampa Bay is going to win that division and the Super Bowl, and they're a lower-level god and a deity in your world, and they're not. You got to look at the facts. You got to look at what's – I got Atlanta last, Carolina third, Tampa Bay second, making the playoffs, and then New Orleans first, winning the division.
You going to me here or Chris?
I'm looking right at you, boo.
I'm going the Bucks at 1. I'm going the Saints at 2. I'm going the Panthers at 3. Actually, no, I'm going the Falcons at 3 and the Panthers at 4.
Who's the running back for the Falcons?
Todd Gurley.
That's right.
That's exactly
He
my
is.
point. That's exactly my point.
So McCaffrey's going to land you 3rd spot over the 4th spot from the two.
Well, if we're going to talk about running backs, who would you rather have, Todd Gurley or Christian McCaffrey?
I'd rather have McCaffrey. Would you rather
Okay, would you rather have Matty
Matt
Ice or
Ryan or
Teddy Bridgewater?
Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan? Come on, man. He's a tick
he's-
above Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater came in on zero notice last year as a backup quarterback and won 5 games in the NFL in a row.
I would take
3
Matt
of those
Ryan,
were road
Falcons
games.
coach.
Teddy Bridgewater's not a joke. He
He had a
proved himself to
great.
me.
He had a great offense last year with the Saints.
Okay.
Who was throwing to Michael Thomas, wasn't he?
Right? And all those guys are
Right.
back, and
And
Al
Jared
Kamara,
Cook,
and
and
now you
Jared
add Emmanuel Sanders on the outside who has speed,
Yeah, so-
and you have the 13th best defense,
Right.
and you guys had the 29th best defense, the 30th best defense.
Right.
I don't think that's getting turned around. Bruce Arians is an offensive coach. He's a quarterback guy.
Right.
If they can't get that defense fixed,
I don't. But as
they
Chris's
play
Falcons,
week 1 in New
I don't-
Orleans. We'll
I know
see a
that-
lot.
Yeah, I know that. I don't think the Falcons are a joke, though. I mean, they have a good offense as well. They've got Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, or they lost Austin Hooper. Who's the other wide receiver behind Julio
I think they're a
Jones?
7-win team, Atlanta.
Really?
Yeah. Who do you got coming out of the South, Chris?
Out of the South, I have the Saints coming out of the South, but I believe this might be a little bit closer than what people are thinking when it comes down to the Bucks and the Saints.
Week 1, they go after it in New Orleans.
Yeah.
The Bucks
So,
go on the
mean-
road to Tampa to New Orleans, and they get it on week 1.
And I believe that may be the tale of the tape, watching that game right there, especially seeing how Tom Brady comes out to play. But when I think of Tom Brady, I actually think of Joe Montana once he left San Francisco, going to the Kansas City Chiefs, where he was the great guy while he was there. Went to Kansas City Chiefs, he wasn't as the Joe Montana as we once knew.
But
so
think
it
about all
definitely
those-
was
think about all the Super Bowls Joe Montana won in
Right.
Kansas City.
right.
Right, but
Right,
have
he
you
did.
seen?
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Okay, but have you seen Tom Brady's weapons? Have we just forgot about those?
No.
Chris Godwin, Mike
Who hasn't
Evans,
shown up?
O.J. Howard.
O.J.
Cameron
Howard
Brate,
is on the
Gronk.
trading block for the last 2 years. He's a pariah. They want to get rid of him.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
LaShawn McCoy is a role
What?
player at this point. You're telling me LaShawn McCoy is the reason they're going to be better than the Saints?
No.
Better come
No.
stronger than that.
No, I mean, really.
Jameis Winston's a major upgrade from Tom Brady's a major upgrade from Jameis Winston.
Well, I mean, the problem that they're going to run into is their running backs. I mean, you bring in
Right.
LaShawn McCoy, but why bring in LaShawn McCoy when you have someone like
Ronald Jones and
yeah,
Keyshawn Vaughn. Well,
Well,
you need a veteran leader.
Vaughn is a
Well,
rookie,
you-
and
you need
Jones
a- you-
averaged
but
3.2
you
yards
need
a
a
carry.
veteran guy in there.
You need
Yeah,
a veteran
but you-
offensive line. That's
but
the
you have
problem in
somebody
Tampa Bay.
like Devontae Freeman that was sitting out there that once was
Right.
the
They
NFL
should
leader that's
sign
sitting
him.
there.
They should
Right.
sign him. I
I
agree with
mean,
that.
you have somebody that he's able to do all of those things that you need for Tom Brady.
I agree.
But going on, but I have Carolina at 3, and I have guys, I said Carolina at 3.
Yeah, you got to have Atlanta at 4.
Yeah, Atlanta at 4.
I think that division will be a lot closer than everybody thinks.
Only at the
Kick
top.
It to you.
Only at the top it'll
Only
be
the
close.
top two. The top two.
Those are all of our picks for the division winners in the NFC. Let us know who you've got. You can reach us here at thefirstrroundrd@gmail.com. We welcome your comments and questions. Last week we started to get into something I said at the top of the show about the Mike Trout 2009 Bowman Chrome Draft Super Fractor card that went for $3.93 million. I forgot to get at it, and I heard a couple of the emails were like, hey, you put it out there at the beginning of the show, the most expensive card ever sold, and they didn't talk about it. We ran out of time. It was completely on me. Mike Trout, rookie Chrome card, $3 million for that card. Before that, it was the Hannes Wagner T206 tobacco card.
Yeah.
And I've actually seen one of those. I think there's 6 of them, but I actually saw one in the Smithsonian in Washington about 5 or 6 years ago. They had a whole baseball exhibit, and we all this memorabilia that you guys see on the set here. These are all real PSA DNA certified autographs of guys. What I've done is find the best players at a position. So like running back behind Joe, we've got Emmett. Behind me over here, we've got Barry Sanders, we've got Gale Sayers, we've got Eric Dickerson, and we've got Jim Brown. Those are the 5 best running backs in my opinion. And then I just go position by position, whether it's baseball or whatever, and I get the 5 best players at that position. I get their autographs, and we throw them on the wall. We got Rocket Richard and Gordie Howe over there. Gordie Howe, I think, played in 5 different decades. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. Well, you need Wayne Gretzky, too, next time.
Yeah, Wayne Gretzky's on the list, too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what else is going on in the world of sports, and for that, I turn to you, Chris.
Well, what's going on in the world of sports is that we have a lot of players starting to speak out in regards to what's going on, and one of the players that actually spoke out in regards to all of the political turmoil and whatnot was Anthony Rizzo from the Chicago Bears, the first baseman. Basically he came out and said, politicians don't give a flip about us. This kid, this is the same kid that grew up down in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas down south in South Florida, where the school shooting happened. And they were trying to get gun reform passed or whatnot, so some of these incidents wouldn't happen. To have these players actually start to speak out now, it's starting to look turn more from some social just from African Americans, but to other people who actually started speaking about other major issues that are affecting America. And my final story is the African American players in the Major League Baseball decided that they would donate their salaries for Jackie Robinson Day to social justice issues. And I think this is something that's really powerful, because these players are putting their money where their mouth is. And this is something that will definitely be able to help bring a little bit of unity in the United States.
Hey, how many of us would give up a week's salary to help out people that we don't know? I think that's a great move. That music can mean only one thing. It's time to thank our support staff, the man on the board, Zach Alicious, my co-host, Chris Roberts, and Joe, Big Joe right there, the Gator fan and the Yankee fan. El Presidente, check 40 for all of us here at the first round. I want to thank you for participating. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking us over 600 subscribers. Remember, hit the subscription button right now and the notification button. You will be updated every Monday and Thursday night when we upload shows. Check us out on Monday night. We'll be right back here on YouTube talking about everything going on in the world of sports. Until then, take care, everybody.